welcome back to the New Legend Podcast. Today is a special day. I'm here with my good friend Luke.
Hello.
One of the OG founders of the show. Welcome to 2021. So this is our first episode we've actually recorded in 2021.
2020 fun.
Is that what it's called?
We got to try and optimize it.
And I just want to disclose a little something. So in the last probably 3 months, if you've noticed our podcasts, so we say family adventure culture, being a man, vintage 4x4 is family adventure culture, being a man in the 21st century. And we've focused mostly on, I'd say, vintage 4x4's family adventure. We don't dip a ton into culture because it's hard to talk about culture without talking about politics.
Gets dicey.
Yeah. And I feel like as a people, we're so inundated with political, everything's been made political, and I think it's really a huge factor in why people perceive that they're divided. When you're just out in the world, like you and I, we were recently in California. When we're just out in the world interacting with people, I find that we're not all that divided. It's like, what is the media portraying that is like, I don't know. So our encouragements for 2021 as a show is we're going to not talk about politics. We're going to talk about things that bring people together.
Ooh, all right.
And because one of the themes that weaves through a lot of our shows, because it's I think about it a lot, and I've talked about it, is the eroding of like social and cultural institutions, and the things like back in the day, even COVID has played a big contributing factor to this. When people get isolated, but people doing things together is what is a fabric that knits people together, or that holds people together. For example, like bowling leagues, softball teams,
Biking clubs,
all that kind of stuff.
Things.
That those have been on the decline. Church attendance, all that kind of stuff has been on the decline. Then you rapidly take that stuff away with COVID, and people just settle back into their silos, being inundated by media bias all day long. So that said, we are going to... So anyway, in the last 3 months, I've been saying to myself, are we like living with our heads in the sand in this podcast? Like we're just ignoring a big... By the way, yeah. Are we just ignoring our culture and like being? So here we are, because it was just to make this point the most poignant way I can. On January 6th, I think the day of the Capitol riots or whatever you want to call them, like we released the Braden Jones episode talking about family and his Vanagon and like adventure. And I'm like, am I just so blind to the cultural situation that I'm just like, you know what I'm saying?
You mean just not even address it, just kind of going opposite of what's news? Yeah,
the common narrative is if you have any kind of platform, and we have a small platform, really small, but we appreciate the people that we get to engage with and the people that listen and follow along. So I'm like, should I be speaking into the moment? And I'm like, why? Like maybe what we said with Braden is what needed to be said in that moment. And that's like, let's focus on our families, on friendship, on getting together, on common interests, on things that we're passionate about. And so,
yeah, and those are the things we know. So we can speak on those, and then what effect that has that trickles over into that political side is...
That's right. And so, that like it was a couple days after that, and I was talking to Braden, and I'm like, no, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. we're going to actually double down just talking about automotive culture, vintage 4x4s, adventure, family. No, I'm just kidding. We're just going to double down. So that said, today, Luke and I, the OG team, is back.
Okay, what are we talking about today?
Well, a couple things. So, and I'm going to try not to be gripey. Like, I've been blessed that I have people around me like Luke that keep me from getting, because I tend to go like kind of extreme in when I'm thinking through an argument or thinking through an issue. And the whole like electric vehicle, well, let's separate, Luke. Would you separate autonomous driving from the electric revolution?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
They're definitely paired together, but it's two completely different ideas. I mean, one is just the mode in which you're getting about, and then the other one is truly changing the entire idea of how you're getting from one place to another. And
the like the freedom, the adventure,
Yeah.
the experience, the visceral experience of driving, like that's the stuff that. So that's like a year ago, I would conflate those two things. I would say to embrace the electric movement is to embrace full autonomy and the lack of freedom, the lack of driving, the lack of all those rich memories and things that we're very passionate about.
Mm-hmm. The smells.
Yeah, all that stuff. And so I've been able in my mind to separate those two and go, yeah, one is just the way the vehicle's, the propulsion.
It's a technology upgrade. Going from a manual transmission to an automatic transmission. Was that devastating to the automobile?
Right.
People were like, oh, I'm not shifting anymore.
Right, exactly. And yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that's actually almost, now that I think about that, I said that, but that's almost a little bit in between, like the autonomous style. That was a step towards it. I wonder if people freaked out at the time when the automatic came out.
Or like power steering.
Yeah.
Or
they are all kind of steps away from you being fully engaged, but I would still, one just completely takes you out of the picture.
So today I wanted to talk about, I don't want to talk about the autonomous thing because I get too angry.
All right. Get riled up.
Because I love driving and I think we need to preserve driving. But GM recently made an announcement.
All right.
Speaking of things that divide people, about electrifying, being 100% carbon neutral. And this is the way I heard it, and this is what bothered me a little bit, was being 100% carbon neutral by 2040. But then I heard people talking about it saying by 2035 they'll have no more fossil fuel engines.
In the actual vehicles.
In all their vehicles.
Not the production. So carbon neutral is, did it say like across the board from their production to actually?
And that was the problem. This is the rub to me. So then I made the mistake of going on like Facebook and reading like 687 comments about like GM's announcement, and like the people that are like that's not fair. They're not anti-electric vehicle. They're anti the idealism that just because our vehicle's electric, that they have zero impact to the environment.
This solution, end all, like perfect thing.
Yeah, that's right.
It still has its problems.
And the other side tends to like skew towards like this is like zero impact on the environment. There's very few people going like GM going, hey guys, we want to do this. We want to do what's best for the environment. It's not easy. Here's why it's good. Here's the drawbacks. Here's the things we need to overcome. Because there's like we talked about this a lot, like the minerals, like the mining of the minerals. And I'm like, I know nothing. Okay, so if you're like a battery expert out there listening, like flame away. It's fine.
In a constructive way, maybe.
In a constructive way. Yeah, constructive way. But mining vehicles, manufacturing the parts, like until we can be, so like the meme that I saw is like got like this picture of a Prius or like an electric vehicle with like nothing coming out of the tailpipe, but it's got an extension cord going to this factory that's like blowing out smoke. And then the other one's like a car that's putting out a little, but it's so I don't know where I'm going with this, but
And it is hard to say and the trouble with, and I go into all my political debates like this, the people that you're hearing vocally are typically on the extreme. So extreme one way or extreme the other. And that usually means it's somewhere in the middle. Like they both have valid points. You gotta kind of dance that line. Jumping onto either side, I think, is a mistake.
And I think what I react to is not even the debate, not the technological advancement. It's like when governments get involved and restrict, like they want progress based, but rather than it just being the best idea and the best technology and actually the best solution, they just regulate against the winners and losers. And you force something that, like, so for example, my simple mind, like people on the pro side be like, we have tons of grid capacity, which I think a lot of our grid is still powered by fossil fuels. Nuclear's not been a popular thing, even though it's clean. Like it's there's a lot of proponents and pros and cons, but it's like 2035 is a short while. It's not that far away. 15, what is it, 17?
35?
14 years?
Yeah, what year is it? 2021? Yeah, 14
years away. You're saying in 14 years we're going to have enough capacity in our grid for how many cars are on the road?
Yeah.
Now I know like this is not banning, like this is GM saying our fleet will not be gas anymore. So that takes another 10 years before every vehicle, how many vehicles are like, there's like 100 million vehicles in America.
So are those dates government regulated, or those that's the company just like trying to make a statement, getting people to go, ooh, they're going to be?
I think so. Yeah, right. That's a great point. Like
because it seems like just putting a hard line on that is a mistake versus just, okay, we're going this route and we'll see what happens and how long it takes. And
great point. And that could just be them going like, well, yeah, we said this is a goal, but it's really going to be 2045.
Yeah.
But I just think for people that can't afford to buy a $30,000 base level electric vehicle, like, but they can afford $1,000 to go buy a clapped out Subaru Outback.
Right, kind of those beater cars will sort of disappear.
But I think the way the government's going to step in is like tax the mess out of fossil fuel to pay for renewable infrastructure. So like you have gas being $5-6 a gallon, which is okay. So let's transition the conversation because I'm getting to the next point. The future. What then is the future of vintage 4x4s and classic car culture? Is it realistic to think that of the $1 billion classic car industry, like there's a lot of vintage 4x4s and classic cars out there? Are you really going to subdue all those people into two things? Either A, not ever driving them again. B, not like, if you restrict fuel, like they'll just start making fuel in their basements, you know?
A little moonshine bootlegger style.
Because you're not going to stop it. So then is, like, let's say for your Scout, if you have an original powered Scout, would you pay $5-6 a gallon to drive it 100 miles a month?
Man.
You probably would.
It'd be, yeah. It's getting tough, though.
Because you're not like that's the thing. Like most people are not relying on their vintage 4x4 for their daily needs of transportation.
Yeah, just more of an activity style.
Yeah. So, and again, like I know it's hypothetical thinking but I think a lot of people with vintage 4x4s are thinking about this already, and should be thinking about it and should be getting involved in advocacy for the preservation of our hobby and of our lifestyle. Because that's interesting about the automotive. It seems to be like a very strong like as a hobby, it seems to have a really strong lifestyle aspect. Like if you're a car guy, or a gal, like it really impacts a lot of your life, Whereas if you're just super into bowling, it's usually not dominating your life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Maybe.
Yeah. So are you saying that people with vintage 4x4s it'll just get expensive, more and more expensive, to where it kind of selects the group that has it? Or are you saying people are going to start going electric conversions with that kind of stuff?
I think that's best case scenario.
Jump around it.
Because the dark future is like if they just ban all fossil fuels.
Just can't have it.
100% ban. And then you have no choice.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it will just get so highly taxed in order to run that it's insane.
And the second thing, we've talked about this a little bit, is the banning of gas and diesel powered vehicles in cities. I think that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where and we've talked about this again. I'm just restating thoughts, but that's where you're going to see autonomous only in cities first. I think it's going to be a little while. So that said, have you heard about the new Hummer? Like
the EV?
Yeah. Is it have like a 600-mile range or something?
Something like that. All the numbers they claim seem
true.
A little bit optimistic on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do any of them undershoot it? Go like, oh, this has 100 miles of range,
so.
but it actually gets 600.
I think they go if the temperature is exactly 61.2 degrees and humidity is this, and you're driving at this speed, this is what you get.
With no AC, no heated seats, no radio, no wipers.
Slight tailwind.
With a slight
tailwind.
So
it's all these just never real world scenarios is what it seems like.
And I need to have like some guests, like expert guests that
just get Elon on here.
Yeah, someone like Elon Musk. That would be fun. But yeah, so this gets me to the topic I actually wanted to talk about. So it seems like to me, so we've been increasing the amount of content that we put out because we want to just inspire more people. We want to tell our story. We just think these vehicles are cool and their stories deserve to be documented. And it's a fun part of our customer experience to go, hey, your vehicle now has a story that's public and people can track along with it. And so it's just fun. So we've been doing it more. But I've noticed an uptick in kind of people getting upset about you're killing the Scout because you're
taking out its soul.
You're taking out its soul.
Why don't you just buy a Suburban if you wanted a Chevy motor?
That's right. And people are passionate about it. Man, it's like we fought this battle. In 2013 is when we kind of leaned in to making these vehicles fit and work for a new generation of people. And that meant going to modern engine conversions. And we kind of got a hailstorm of
there was a wave that hit pretty hard, and
we managed it like commensurate with our personality, and that is we didn't go fight a ton of public battles. We just kind of kept doing what we're doing, kept building great trucks, trying our best to have great customer experience, and just letting that and telling our story.
Yeah, just trying to say the facts and educate people on why we're doing what we do.
But I've noticed an uptick lately. Haven't you?
Yeah, I wonder if we got kind of the first wave of Scout guys and sort of convinced them that this is this has its place, and now there's another generation that's coming in,
or they're just doubling down.
Or it's really getting to them
because they see the popularity of Scouts. They see, I don't know. And so I wanted to kind of revisit the question of, first the question of why we went down this pathway, just restate that. And then the pros and cons of kind of keeping it original or doing a conversion.
Mm-hmm.
And this conversation to our earlier, the way we opened, is relevant because the EV conversion world is in its very infancy. We have not done one yet. We've had requests. We've had what we are We'll get into that too. Like why are we waiting to do EV conversions? Which we'll get into maybe some philosophical stuff. So, so why we do what we do? Let's answer that.
Not a defense of why we do what we do?
Not really a defense. Just why did we go down this pathway? Just again, we've said it 100 times in different mediums, but just to restate it.
I think for the most part, we want to see these trucks drive. We've seen far too many sitting in fields because a head cracked or something. Too many that are just plow trucks because they're not, you can't, or people haven't been able to daily drive them, take them on road trips, do whatever, because they don't have the knowledge or the know-how or the time.
That's a great point. I've never really.
That's sort of my kind of core is like this gets people in them and gets them moving again.
Yes. Let me play a little devil's advocate.
All right, have at it.
Why not just focus your energy in refurbishing, refreshing, getting the old 345 running again? Because if they were broke and then they parked it, why don't we just unbroke them and then
unbroke them? Sure. Well, they're 60, 70 years old. The technology's getting old. Stuff is improved.
Yeah.
So there's a new generation that doesn't know how to tinker on carburetors and get them working, and
right.
doesn't want to deal with big oil spots in their garage and their driveway.
And how many people listening to this podcast can have experienced being told, no, I don't want to work on your Scout because we don't work on carbureted vehicles anymore. I think that's very common. And let alone if they do, they have no idea what they're doing because these mechanics aren't 70.
Because the firing order is slightly different than most
That's right.
trucks,
They're spending all day long. Let's go through a basic timeline. Fuel injection and OBD1 came out in
the 80s?
Yeah, like 80. I know for like Mustangs, like 86 was the first. 85 was like some weird carburetor, smart carburetor. 86, I think, was the first full out HO fuel injection throttle body. GM 90, well, GM, it was like in the earlier 80s, came out with their TBI kits, like probably 85, 86. I don't know, forgive us if we're wrong. But like I know like the Vortec came out in 96. Before that was TBI. So that was OBD1. That's when the mechanics started plugging in some kind of scanner or computer and saying, oh, we have a lean oxygen condition or lean mixture. So when was the 80s? How many years ago? 1980 was 40 years ago. So about 35 years ago. So for 35 years, mechanics, so let's say they became a mechanic at 20 in 1985, and they've been starting to use OBD2 and scanners, and now they're 55. That's rare. Like most mechanics are between 25 and 35.
That art's disappearing.
Yeah, so the 25 to 35, they started working on cars in like the late 90s. Early 2000s. Mm-hmm. So all they know is OBD2, plug it in. No, I mean, I'm saying they're bad mechanics. There's a lot of brilliant mechanics, but they're still living in a computer-run generation. The people that know how to work on a Scout, in particular, let alone just like adjusting points, gap, dwell, and like that's a slim number. Another slim number is the people that actually can make a living doing that, because they can't.
Yeah, all right. And getting the parts, you gotta, even if you know how to do it, what you're doing, getting the parts, you're gonna be waiting.
That's right.
Days, weeks, who knows?
So, and fortunately, in our space, there are shops that still specialize, and I think you and I both are advocates of specialization, because I think you learn the quirks and the idiosyncrasies and the strengths and weaknesses of the platform. Everything look all right?
Yeah, I think so.
So to find a Ford specialist, a classic car Ford specialist, it's hard. It's hard, dude.
Yeah. And we have seen a lot of rigged trucks come through the shop. When you take them to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing,
The majority.
it's
not like
is that what the money you put in that, was that actually beneficial?
right. And we see it all the time, and that's a perspective that we have that many people don't have. Is, dude, people that spend thousands of dollars, like $2,000 to $10,000 on their Scouts with original platform, trying to get them to be to act like a more modern vehicle. and then they come to us, and then they do a conversion.
So give us your synopsis real quick of why we do what we do.
I think you said it well. It's just to get people driving. We feel like the original IH designers wanted to create a fun, reliable, powerful, efficient vehicle that was tough and robust and all that kind of good stuff. And I think they did. So in the spirit of that, we felt like, and it was all contextual because we've been doing this since 2002, but I've been working on Scouts since the mid 90s. And I was a car kid before that. So like I've been a full carburetor, old school guy my whole life. But it was seeing us rebuild engines, and I trained myself. I learned from smart old craftsmen, like how to rebuild these engines and get the transmissions rebuilt. And you go through all these steps, painstakingly restoring it back so that it could our thing has always been, since I bought the company in 2002, we want to bring the Scout to a new generation of people. I was a young guy getting into Scouts. But you'd be meticulous about rebuilding this engine, all the tricks of the trade. And then 3 weeks later, it's got a rear main seal leak. Number one, the customer's upset, or it's like hesitating on the carburetor. And so then you tune it again. They're just, and I know this will offend people, but they're just higher maintenance engines. And so as a business, we said there's got to be a better way to do this. And a lot of young people are intimidated at old technology. Like when my wife or my daughters or my sons, now my son Owen has been around enough old janky stuff that he knows how to do it, but and my daughter's getting pretty sharp at it. But I turn the key and it's just not doing anything. It won't start. So should I pump the gas? Should I hold it to the floor? Should I not? And then it kind of sputters, and then it's that's common.
And real quick, don't take this as hate on it, because we each have international powered trucks and we love them and they're a blast. And it's not hate, but we believe this is a better alternative
for the intended use. Again, I would have to say I probably like the original stuff more than a modern powered rig, because I love the nostalgia. I love tinkering with stuff, and I think if you're going to embrace it as a lifestyle, like I always go back to my buddy Jay and his Vanagon Jay is episode, I don't know, first 10 episodes. He's so passionate about this old 1991 Vanagon. We're like, hey, let's go to, we were at his house in Southern California. We're like, let's go to just north of San Diego, San Onofre, to go surfing. He's like, yeah, dude, let's go. It's like, let me change my spark plugs first. Right. I'm like, are they bad? He's like, no, really, it just needs it. He's like, I just did it 6,000 miles ago. But if you love that lifestyle, if you love that, and this is something like Braden and I talked about too, then it's great. Like on our trips, the simplicity, the nostalgia, I love it.
And they're chunky little engines. I mean, they just it may not run great all the time, but they will keep running.
And they're simple to fix. Yeah. And to all the people out there that go, that we're not like people that invaded the Scout world and are just trying to, we want to see Scouts honored. And we've just felt like the best way to do that is with modern technology. And again, weaving this narrative, we almost don't have a choice. The infrastructure is changing. Fuel prices have been, in California, they're super expensive. It's not going to get cheaper depending on the way the future of politics goes. But so we love seeing, and we have another part of that unique perspective is we've converted over 100 Scouts, and we have the benefit of hearing from the majority of those customers how amazing it is and how much fun it is to just get in the truck, because these are busy people are busy, man. And if you don't embrace wrenching as a lifestyle, and you just want to go enjoy, unwind after work, and like just put the key in it and start it, and then actually have some. This sounds. I always catch myself having some power, because IH motors are not super weak, but they're not super powerful. They're 160 horsepower. A 4.8 liter LS engine is 285. It's almost double the horsepower, less weight. They don't leak oil. You don't smell like gas.
But there is something when people are busy, you go in, turn the key, it doesn't fire up. A lot of these people, they're just hopping in a different vehicle. They're not taking the time to try and figure it out.
And you probably, like with a spouse or someone that's like a kid that you're trying to get in, or if you probably have, like, I know with my wife, she's been patient and great, but you have like 2 or 3 opportunities of like, they get in it and drive it like, hey, I'm gonna take your Scout to the store, or take the Scout to the store. Sure, that's awesome, go for it. And then they call you like, this dang thing won't start. Like, can you come?
You only get so many strikes before
and it's not that
they
it's
burn out.
Unreliable, because I can go over there and I know how to start it.
Yeah.
So I go get it started for her, and then she drives it home. She's happy. Then a couple more trips. It's fun. But then again, it happens again, and then she's like, I am not driving this thing anymore.
You get burned too many times and it's donezo, huh?
And that's not a male-female thing.
So
that's
what about people who say like that's kind of a rite of passage? Like you don't deserve to drive this truck if you don't put in that time or have that ability.
I think it's dumb. I think if you want,
I think some people would argue that like this is you need to this I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to say it other than rite of passage.
I think that's exclusionary. I don't like it.
Okay.
I just like Scouts are amazing. The community's great. The experience of driving an old truck is unmatched as a driving experience. Maybe like an old Porsche, just an old mechanical thing is very, very special. And if a company we've really tried to respect the original, like we want it to still feel mechanical and still feel vintage. That's why I remember 15 years ago, someone asked me to do a Dodge Dakota dash swap. Like, can you put this modern? And I'm like, no, why would I want that? I want it to feel like an old truck. I just want it to be efficient and reliable. And again, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but one of the comments was, stop saying that old IH motors are unreliable. They're more reliable than your new Chevy crap. And it's like, you're a younger guy. What do you think about that?
I don't know that that's true. Again, we're not trying to hate on the IH motors, but they're just different animals. You can't say that the past 50, 60 years of technology, things haven't improved.
Right.
That would be a bold claim.
Right. I would say, dude, the IH motor, maybe like a Ford Flathead, an old Chrysler Hemi, like an IH V8 is a beautiful looking engine. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
I've always dreamed of like an open engine hot rod with an IH engine because they're just so cool looking. And I've seen old tractors that kind of have them exposed, like the way the water tubes are, and they're just a cool looking engine. And what's funny, Luke, is like so many people that are making these arguments to us are putting GM throttle body, fuel injection and like a serpentine kit and like trying all these tricks to make their old engine more.
Right.
What are they trying to make it? Why? What are they trying to do when they put fuel injection? Make it more reliable and more efficient. That's all we're trying to do. It's no different.
And I think I saw that, and somebody was commenting like, "Well, now your IH engine's sipping through a GM straw. Like, how close do you get?"
Yeah, that's right.
You got a Chrysler transmission. I mean, that was kind of our original defense. Was like IH put Nissan engines, AMC, Chrysler. They used all these different companies' equipment. Like, where
that's right.
is if you had a Nissan diesel, is that no longer an IH?
And I think if I can generalize, because I am like this, is they're just don't like change. They're afraid of that things are going to change so much that their passion and their memories will be destroyed. And trust me, man, we're sensitive to that, and it's what drives what we do. But as you can, this truck right behind us, good old SS2 clone, I'm taking this truck to Baja, Mexico for an iron and resin collaboration. And it's got an IH powered engine, and we'll have a great time. I know the right spares to bring. I know how to fix it. So we love it both ways. Our company is oriented towards modern technology, but like we have always said, like, and this will bring us to the next conversation, just enough modernity, like just enough modern.
Yeah.
So at first we were doing Gen 3 Chevy LS Swaps, which was like, pretty much we stayed away from the 01, 02s, pretty much 03 to 07. We ran that for probably 4 years. That was our base platform with a 4L60 4-speed automatic. And then what happens is when you upcycle engines, those engines that had at the time, you got to figure every year people are adding an average of 12 to 20,000 miles onto their engines. So if we started in 2014 sourcing 06 Chevy LS engines, and they had 40 to 80,000 miles on them. Now in 4 years later, they have another 60 to 70,000 miles on them, which is just too much. So we kind of have this 100,000 mile, sub 100,000 miles, I feel like is a good investment for a modern engine, because they'll run effectively 250 to 300,000 if they've been cared for. It's pretty average. So like your yellow Scout has an 05 probably.
I think 05, yeah.
Probably had a little over 100,000.
Yeah, it was what we would technically call a high mileage motor, because it was just cheap from a junkyard when I put it in.
Right. But so that led us into Gen 4s, which Gen 4 was like pretty much 08. We stayed away from 08, 09, because I don't like the first model year of a new design. So we kind of skipped right to 2010s, to 2013s for a couple years. Now we're pretty much sourcing 14 to 17 model year engines, and they're all Gen 4, which means variable valve timing. It's they're very similar to a Gen 3 LS, just a little bit, there's a little additional technology, which is fine. And we went to 6L80 transmissions. Now here's the problem. Believe it or not, 2017 is 4 years ago.
Ooh.
Right.
Man.
So there's a big shift in technology to Gen 5, which Gen 5 is the LT platform. I think this is untechnical, so please, you GM nerds, like don't get crazy.
Aficionados.
Yeah, they're just people that geek out to it, and I love
yeah.
those people. But for the sake, we're just talking surface level.
Broad overview.
The LT platform, Gen 5 direct injection. I don't know, you don't have a ton of experience, but what's your initial reaction
on direct injection?
Yeah, like the Gen 5s. Do you like them?
I don't know a ton about them. I know they have there's like some oiling problems that people are doing a little catch can stuff to get around. I don't know. I mean, they rip. I don't know. We'll see if other problems start to come up. But
that's what I love, dude. The Gen 5 has this they almost feel supercharged. It's so cool.
They're pretty potent. It's quick.
And just the way the torque rolls on, it's like I'm a fan from that perspective. Longevity, you got to think, man. I think they came out in 2015, 6 years ago. There's already probably more than 1 million of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
So GM does a pretty darn good job with their engines. But that's the next iteration for us is Gen 5 swaps, which now we went from a 4-speed to a 6-speed. Now that's the 8L90 and the 10L90 are common. And so we did our first Gen 5 swap in probably 2017, 2016.
Yeah, I think 17.
And I felt like we were too ahead of the curve.
Couldn't find any aftermarket.
So we were actually fabricating power steering brackets. It was not great. So we said we're going to put that on the back burner until the aftermarket catches up, because that's when it's like reliable and there's tuning. Now there's like different wiring philosophies on a Gen 5, because they have this basically like variable voltage systems that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like on off. Everything's like variable. So like the fuel pump comes on softly and it trickles up in voltage. Same with the AC compressors. So anyway, too technical. But this leads us to why we haven't done an electric conversion swap. Why don't you talk about that? Luke's as you guys know, Luke is our engineer, so he's got to think about these things as a system, integrating it in, not thinking about doing it once in a novelty kind of way, but doing it, shifting our whole platform for both the parts we sell to customers, information, instructions, turnkey kits, like blah, blah, blah. So,
and there's, again, yeah, I mean, you were kind of saying it, the electric conversion stuff is in such infancy right now. And we've had a couple companies contact us, and we've contacted them about potentially doing something. But I think what we don't want to do is, kind of one-off, sort of, not rig, but sort of just get something that works.
So that we can say we did it.
So that we can say we did it, and then that customer is like, this, I don't really, you didn't have it right. I don't enjoy driving this truck.
That's right.
Like we want to get it right so that this truck is getting on, it needs to improve. It needs to go up, not just doing it to do it.
Yeah, because if you guys have seen like the EV powered Broncos, and like there's a gold rush of innovation, which I love that. But it's still kind of weird in my opinion, because like electric motors have all this torque, and like they're very efficient, but they're sticking them in front of 5-speed manual transmissions, and then you just leave it in third gear. Which just seems. But then there are companies that are coming out with more direct drive, like single gear transmissions, with just reverse and forward.
Yeah, I mean the key for electric stuff is going to be just reducing all that drag and
That's
waste
right.
along the way, and so to throw it through the original drivetrain is almost doesn't make sense.
And Luke, how much is that engine kit? Some of the ones that are available.
Minimum 30.
Yeah,
40
$30,000 for
just. Do
you realize?
I don't think that was even battery packs. I think that was just.
Do you realize for $30,000 the type of gas engine you could get?
Dude.
You put an LT4 in there. You could put, I mean, heck, depending on what you want. If you want fuel economy, in the shot you might be able to see there's an R28 behind us. We had the privilege of doing a couple episodes with the folks from Cummins. It's a great little platform. It's $8,400 or maybe, I don't know what the current pricing is, but that in a Scout in our testing, 25 miles per gallon all day long,
which is amazing.
It's amazing. So to go $30,000 to get 90 miles of range, does not seem like a good bargain, or a good thing for anybody right now. I mean, you need early adopters. So I appreciate all the companies that are doing it. So for us, just so you guys all know, our stance on the EV conversion is once it's offered from like a company like GM in a Cruise and Connect package, then I feel like, and I think that's coming, it's supposed to be this fall, that you can buy.
They're putting out a kind of a crate situation.
Yeah, with batteries and like the controllers as a Cruise and Connect system, which means it has a warranty. Once you got the big dogs like jumping in, then you go, okay, this technology is maturing.
Yeah.
Because that's the first Gen 5 LT1 swap we did was a GM Cruise and Connect, and it was still a nightmare. Not a nightmare, but it was difficult.
Right.
For a company that's trying to actually produce jobs and make a living. If you're a hobbyist, it's fine.
We'll see, man. We'll see what the future holds.
So that is the kind of, I know we were kind of a little bit all over the place. We're also going to launch, Luke and I are going to we're going to have guests, and we'll keep kind of weaving a philosophical narrative through. We want to kind of, for our own sake, tell our own story and tell why we do what we do, explain that. And so Luke and I are going to do kind of a behind the builds series where we talk about what drives the philosophy of New Legend. What are we doing? Why do we do what we do? Down to like chassis, brakes, suspension, because all that stuff, there's purpose to why do we choose a certain suspension over another suspension? Why do we choose these brakes, these wheels? Why do we do the interior? So we just wanted to run through every system of the Scout in our builds, because it could be a Scout or Wagoneer. And we'll kind of tell that story. But yeah, great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, it's fun. And Luke and I have these conversations every single day, so it's really fun to just have him here and able to talk to you guys. So look forward to that. Look forward to more guests. I am going to be also, just to kind of, and this will be like good or bad. You know, like when someone like a podcast host starts geeking out about his own things he's passionate about. Mm-hmm. And so let me just tell this story really quick. So I had the opportunity to purchase one of 4 factory-sponsored IH race trucks. And I'm weaving together this history, so this is not the official story. But essentially, there was a group, Bayshore International, in the Bay Area in California, was a leading kind of IH dealership, both in like Scouts, light line, heavy trucks, everything. Well, the owner, Mr. Kirkpatrick, was passionate about racing. And so somehow, and I'm learning all this stuff, somehow Bayshore and IH International Harvester came together to build 4 trucks. And they were raced by, I think, I shouldn't even be talking about this, but one of the racers was Sherman Balch, who had a Scout accessory company back in the day, and was probably the most successful driver in kind of score racing history. So this is like Baja 1000, Baja 500, Tecate 250, like some of these races that were more desert-oriented races, some stadium stuff back in the 70s. So I own one of those trucks. It's called Bayshore number 3. It was raced, and I so appreciate some of the folks that have been helping me with this history. There are some passionate people who were the people that built the truck, raced against the truck, Bayshore International people. Like, it's a great little, it's small, but a community of people that know all these stories intimately. So I'm going to be expect all of them to be a guest on the show, where it's really important for me to tell this story and the history. So Bayshore number 3, this truck raced by Sherman Balch in 1982, from what I understand so far, won the Baja 1000 Class 3S, won the Baja 500. It won all the Score Series races in its class. Very amazing truck. And then IH was in decline at that point. They already stopped making the Scout. So from what I understand, Sherman then went to race for Nissan. And this Scout got raced by his son, Shad, for like a few years, and like some local, more short course type of racing. And then it went into retirement. Then this guy, Jim Marsh, in like 1994, bought this truck. Jim Marsh was the founder of Anything Scout. I bought the company in 2002. The race truck that was now hammered, because Jim raced it hard. I mean, he rolled it like 6 or 7 times. Every picture that Jim has given me of this truck,
3 feet in the air.
It's 3 feet in the air. It's nuts. For any of you that have ever jumped a Scout, like,
man,
that's like, yeah. So anyway, I have this truck. I feel a great deal of responsibility and passion to get it. But it's in 100 pieces.
You call it a truck, but it's a frame, and there's a fender and an intake manifold.
And I'll tell the story. But anyway, so I've been just really geeking out about Baja. And so I'm going there in March in this truck. And then our goal is to race this truck in the Nora 1000 with some of these original people. And it's going to be a dream. So I'm going to start doing some episodes about this truck, about the history. So stay engaged. It is a big part of the IH International Harvester story. Because it just was a big piece of developing quality trucks, was their race program.
I'd also say, if any of you guys know anybody or know anything yourselves, or have pictures that kind of fill in some gaps, send them our way.
Yeah. That's going to be huge. And we're going to build a big story about this. So it won't dominate the podcast, but expect probably 8 episodes in 2021 and 22.
But there's not a lot of information out there, so it's just piecing it together from the original sources.
Yeah, it's all these amazing people that care about the history of these trucks, and I'm very excited. I just dream about it, like driving this truck. And I've wheeled a lot in my life, and I've off-roaded almost my whole life, but I've never raced.
You ever been in a race?
No. So I'm sure I'm very ignorant, and it's going to be a great learning experience. So in March, in this truck, which is just a clone of an SS2, which was their Baja edition, we're going to do a very, very light treatment and some product testing for our Anything Scout brand, to test some new components and parts out in the corrugations of Baja. So anyway, thanks for joining us again. Thank you for all your support these last 2 years. I think we've done like almost 40 episodes. Luke's been a big part of that. The show keeps growing. The audience keeps growing. The feedback keeps growing. Let's keep the movement rolling. Thank you always for your support. And send us an email or reach out to us on Instagram if you have any show ideas or people that we should talk to. I appreciate that. And now that COVID's kind of lightening up, I'm going to get back out on the road because I really value being in context in other people's garages and talking. If you notice, we haven't done any phone episodes yet. So I've been resisting that. So let's get it going, man. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.